Hey, it's Donny. Hey, today we're going to talk about how you can play those crazy chord shapes from the CAGED system. So I'm not going to go over the CAGED system in detail, but I'll just run through the chords here. So it's ways to play the same chord in 5 different positions and 5 different voicings up the neck. So it's a C chord, an A chord, a G chord, an E chord, and a D chord. God, is that D chord is brutal. But that's not the only one that's brutal, because the C chord is brutal when you move it up the neck, and the G chord is brutal. Obviously, we can play the E chord with the bar chord, and we can play the A chord with the bar chord. But the C chord is what we're going to start off with. This is my favorite one, and I'm so mad that people teach it the way they do, because it looks like this the way everybody teaches it. And that's such a bad way to teach this, because there's no reason to bar this fret with your index finger, because you're already fretting 3 of these notes. So really all you need to focus on is the G string and the high E string. But I am a huge fan of just muting out the high E string. I do it all the time with multiple chord voicings and everything else. It's not a sound that I need in the chord to make it sound good to me. So what I do is I mute it out, and you don't have to play all 6 strings. That's like the #1 rule of guitar that everyone needs to realize, is you don't have to actually strum all the strings all the time. So if you mute out notes and everything, it doesn't matter. So we're going to make this an E chord right now, and this is how we're going to play it, and this is how I'm going to suggest you play it. And you can just mute out that high E string with your rolled over middle finger. So your middle finger is going to be on the B string at the 5th fret. Then your index finger is going to be the 4th fret on the G string. Your ring finger is going to be the 6th fret on the D string, and then your pinky is going to be on the 7th fret of the A string. And then just comparing that sound to an A-shaped bar chord. So we're going to play an E with the A-shaped bar chord, and that would be this. So I want you to let me know in the comments which one you think sounds better. So this is the A shape. This is the C shape. Spoiler alert, I think the C shape sounds better. But it's personal preference and it's application. What song are you playing? Can your fingers get there? Is your hand position right to be able to add that voicing and everything? All that needs to go into it, how you're going to start playing these in songs. But I think that's a super cool sound. It's a super fun shape to play. It's a super helpful shape for just a lot of things. A lot of different ideas you can do with that. And that's really cool. And that sits on top of the form 4 of your pentatonic. And this would be your E major pentatonic. Just so you know, it's always nice to know what scale is sitting under your chord. And all of these CAGED shapes relate to one of those form positions of the pentatonic. I'm here to help you get better at guitar. So if you're a guitar player who wants to get better, then please like and subscribe. So we have that chord. So let's move on to the G chord. So the G chord, we're going to do this in the B chord form. So if we're taking a B chord here on the 2nd fret, that is your A-shaped B chord, obviously. Well, if you go up to here, you're going to grab your G shape. So you're going to be barring the D, G, and B string on your 4th fret. And then you're going to take your index finger and you're going to put it on the 6th fret of your A string. And that's going to be your whole chord. And I mute out the high E string here too, because it's not supposed to be in there anyways. But what's cool about this chord is that it sits on top of your form 1 of your pentatonic. So now we're in B major, right? Because this is a B major chord. And you're in your form 1 of your pentatonic, which would be right here. So it'd be 4 7 4 6 4 6 4 6 4 7 4 7. And then right here you have this box on the D, or the A, D, and G string. So that's super helpful. And this chord shape is actually always called a Hendrix chord. He gets a lot of credit for this one, and it's because he would do a lot of his embellishments off of it, because he has that little box of the pentatonic right underneath it. And what you're doing here by not playing your pinky on the top of this G chord, G-shaped chord, I should say, is you're turning it into an inversion, which you don't need to know that, but your major third is in the bass. So now we have an E chord and a B chord. So that's a 1 and a 5. And that's the reason I picked that, just because I wanted to show you that these positions can go really well together, right? If you were going to play a 1 to a 5, or in this case an E to a B, then you could use these two shapes. Compare that just to the actual bar chord shapes that you would play if you didn't know how to play these CAGED shapes and you wanted to play up the neck. So it's just a little different, right? You have different voicings. If you got two guitar players in your band, or you're playing with a buddy and you're playing a song that's got a 1 and a 5, which would be an E and a B, or obviously any other 1 and a 5, then, you know, one guitar player could be playing in the open position, or they could be playing those bar chords. The other one could be playing these CAGED shapes. It's going to make you sound fuller. It's going to improve your range and everything. And it's just more options to sound better instead of just playing the same things. So those are both great. I use those more than the next one I'm going to show you, but let's just talk about the D chord too, because that original D chord shape I showed you is absolutely terrible. The number one thing that I like to do with the D chord is just use it as a triad. So if you just don't play the D string, it becomes a triad, and it's a movable triad, and it's just a major triad. So this is a D chord. This is an A chord. This is an E chord. So if you can start memorize the notes on your B string, it can actually go a long way for you, because you can always know what note you're playing and know where to grab this chord, because your 1 is on the B string. A lot of different things you can do, like intros and stuff like that you could do, little lead ideas you could make off of these chords. So it's really cool. That is super helpful. The next thing that you can do is you can turn it into a power chord. So if we're going to go down here and play that A major, it would look like this. So instead of doing this, we're leaving off that high E string again. And what we're going to do is just grab it like this, which you'd have your index finger on the 7th fret, you'd have your ring and the 7th fret of the D string, and then you'd have your ring finger on the 9th fret of the G string, and you'd have your index finger on the 10th fret of the B string. That turns it into a power chord. Obviously, it's a very higher pitched power chord, so it doesn't have the same sound of a typical power chord, but it's an option. It's an option for getting to your chord tones. And then if you take your middle finger and you throw it on the low E string at the 9th fret, then you have a full chord and you're playing another inversion. So that's got a little different voicing to it. This one's hard to grab, but if you really work at it, you can start incorporating this into your playing too. And it's something fun to grab when you're just kind of playing over this form 3 of the major pentatonic, because that's what sits right underneath this chord is the form 3. So you have 7/9, 7/9, 7/9, 6/9, 7/10, 7/9. this is a nice shape that just kind of opens up the fretboard a little more to you. And you can start, you know, targeting those chord tones when you're soloing and things like that. So I hope you like this lesson. This is just some ways you can start incorporating it into your chord progressions and your rhythm guitar playing. Obviously, the CAGED system can be used for so much more than that. You can use it for improvising. You can use it for your lead playing. You can start figuring out what pentatonic scale is under each of my CAGED shapes so that you know where your chord tones are within those pentatonic scales. And it's very helpful in other aspects, but this is just to help you with some rhythm playing and some chord progressions and some ideas. And I find these super helpful. I love to have different voicings up and down the neck. So I hope you found this helpful as well. And thanks for watching. I'll talk to you soon.